In the book of Romans, chapter 10, verse 9, it says, "If you will confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved." Now, why is the mouth so important? Well, in the very beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth, what was in his heart and what was in his mind came out through his mouth as he spoke creation into being. And think about marriage for a second. It's when you speak the words "I do" that you go from being not married to married. Or think about enlisting in the military. It's when you take the oath and you say "I will" that you go from being a civilian to a soldier. So in this case, when in your heart you find that you trust God and that you believe on Jesus Christ, you want to take that and express it to him with your mouth. Now, you could argue that God already knows what's in your heart, but he says that he wants us to speak it, which is probably for our good and for our sakes anyway. Now, I think it's because speaking it out loud to him makes it real for us, for the angels, for God. It puts it out into the material world. And maybe this is what scares us a little bit about making a verbal confession, is that as long as the thoughts are in our head, then they're safe and they're private. But the minute they come out of our mouth, well, then they go out into the world where they can be witnessed by other people. I think we all share an understanding that we are accountable for our words. Jesus in Matthew 12:36 says, "I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word that they speak." Still, I don't think making a confession of faith is something that you need to be afraid of, unless you're planning on taking the Lord's name vainly upon yourself, or unless you plan on lying about it. On the contrary, it should help you solidify your belief. It takes effort to express your heart and your beliefs in a clear and intelligible way. Speaking your faith and confessing your allegiance to Jesus as Lord, that is the very way of entering into a covenant relationship and receiving the offer of salvation that Jesus extends to us. Although I might add that baptism is the only specified outward act. Let's save that and we'll talk about that next video. But as for now, this is just a personal expression of the relationship between you and God. The main thing is to make it something sure, to make it something solid, to profess your allegiance to Jesus and let him know that from here on out you intend to trust him and to follow him wherever he leads. To get started, I would suggest expressing to him agreement that you have been in rebellion against him and that hell would be a just and fitting punishment for that. But make it clear that you are now surrendering and that you will gladly accept Jesus' gift and his atoning blood to pay the debt that you owed. Let him know that you are willing to be trained by him and that you will accept the difficulties that come with discipleship because you believe that God is good and that he is a rewarder of those who seek after him. So if you've never done this already, go and take care of it with God. Use your out loud voice to make a verbal confession of your belief and your trust and your desire to follow him and your pledge of allegiance with him. And then in the next video, we can talk about what it means to make that relationship something public before the church and the rest of God's people.